So I had this weird dream this afternoon. I was a bit tired, so well, afternoon, more like morning probably. Um, and uh, it's like this old guy. He pointed at something and in my direction, and then accidentally I got like the tip of his nail into my mouth and there was dirt on it, and then immediately I just got, it was disgusting. It was like this chemical sensation and taste, and I excused myself and I ran like into the toilet to like spit out whatever was in my mouth, and then it was like this frothy, like like foamy stuff, white blue stuff that was like, and I see all like bubbles coming out, and um, it was really disgusting. It was really, yeah, toxic, and it was not a, and I had like, I know that somebody came in like, hey, what's going on? And I was looking at myself, saw myself in the mirror, and like my mouth was completely like, whoa. It was really full of this stuff, and it was and I tried to like spit it out and flush it out and stuff, and I woke up and I'm like, wow, that's a very scary dream. That's like, what's going on here? And I turn on the news, I'm thinking like, what's going on? Is there some kind of um, yeah, I was kind of scared because I thought, man, what's going on? Like, is there something in Ukraine where they like did some toxins attacks or something on people? And I mean, it's something like kind of something that we're expecting, right? I mean, if you look at Putin, he is getting beat down after beat down. He just lost a big warship, the Moscow, and and the thing is, like, every time things like that happen, he wants to like correct it, like, he like, oh, you do something to me, then I have to do something back. So it just escalates. So it wouldn't. Um, And then we have like in Mariupol, of course, we have all they really want to break through there. So it's like, are they like gonna use toxins there to break through? Because in the end, we already said that he's a war criminal and he is committing genocide. So it's not like, uh, uh, well, he might as well add biological warfare to it, right? So the thing is that he doesn't really care about us, about America or Europe, what we think. I mean, he hates us basically. That's what he's been taught his whole life, and that's what he's been like, been thinking all his life. And he's like actually victim of their own KGB like indoctrination, where he's been taught to hate us, and he actually still believes it. That we are really, like, we don't care about them. We don't hate them. No, not really. Like, we kind of hate him now. We hate the Russians that are doing all these awful things. And but you know this idea that we're after them or something, that's just, it's like, why would we? Like, they can do whatever they want, right? In their own country, to a certain limit, of course. But yeah, but yeah, he just wants to keep responding to whatever we do, and of course there is this thing that where he is like losing. If he loses, um, he's losing face again and again. He's like, he's if he loses, if he doesn't get anything out of this, some he might, it might be that, like, he's indoctrinated the people of Russia to believe that he's going to he's going to do something to Ukraine. He has to make it look like a victory, or it has to look like a victory. If it looks like a total defeat, well, that's gonna, like, after saying, like, for years and years that he's like gonna do something. It's a very dangerous situation. It's a very dangerous situation where he could go, like, to biological warfare. Actually, that is not as what we're really fearing, of course, is like the nuclear thing, which also could be something like a next thing, but I guess that, like, using biological warfare, which is, of course, and that's why it's illegal, can be more effective, like, against entrenched people, and like in Mariupol, the people there, they're so entrenched, they're so equipped to survive and fight back against the Russians. And Napoleon once said, "Give me 10,000 Ukrainians and I will conquer the world." And at that point, the Ukrainians were called Cossacks. And he went in the direction of Russia. And at that point, Ukraine, of course, is in front of Russia from France. So he got into the Cossack territory, and the Cossacks were like burning, or Ukrainians, they were burning all the fields, all the food supplies, destroying anything that could give his soldiers food or anything. So the further he went into their territory towards the east, the more he was reliable. He relied on food supplies from the west to supply his soldiers with food. And of course, the Ukrainians, or the Cossacks, what they did, they knew this. They were really good with, and they were mostly on horses and stuff. They were very good fighters. They would attack the food supplies, so his men would end up without food, and basically was like, and tactically was unable to fight, and he had to retreat. And that's when he said, "Well, give me 10,000 Cossacks or Ukrainians, and I will rule the world," because he was so impressed with their fighting skills. And if you look at where the Cossacks came from, or the Ukrainians, that area, Ukraine, used to be a very like hundreds of years ago, it was an empty area, and it was because it was very, very dangerous. And people from around that area, and I mean, I looked Poland, Moscow, Turkey, all around this area, around Ukraine, there were people that went there because there was so much, in the summertime, there was so much, it was such a rich country to get, like, food, like they had, like, and it could hunt animals. And these people that went there, they're very adventurous, very, very courageous people who could defend themselves, because whenever you went in that area, it was very dangerous. So the people that started going in Ukraine, in this area, were very courageous, were very self-reliant, very good fighters, very smart, of course, being in surviving. So you could see here that the DNA of Ukrainians is what later on became, this were the Cossacks. Their DNA these are fighters, these are survivors, these are people that are not afraid. They're absolutely not afraid to go. If they're challenged, there's only one option, and that's to fight, because the reason that they went into this country, into these lands, because they felt oppression coming from, even like hundreds of years ago, they felt oppression coming from the areas they left, from governments, from people that were like applying taxes, rules, regulations, that were like, that they, they were like, you could call them maybe vagabonds, and some of them were they were very, they were free men, they were free thinking people, they were very liberal. I mean, I heard about the woman that they were like, when the man died, normally in those days, um, the the what was left over, the farm or whatever, it would go towards like the oldest son or some guy in the family. No, this would go to the woman. They were like feminists before feminism ever was a thing, So these women were had the same spirit as these guys, and they were very liberal, and even like the unmarried women, they had a lot of freedoms in what they could do. So these people, they were very beyond their time, and that's probably why they went there and started to become this new nation, this new group of people, because uh, even though it was maybe a bit harder to survive there, their liberty, their freedom to do whatever they want was more important than to be oppressed by wherever area they were leaving from. So they were not really like one genetically, they were not like one people at that point, but they became all these people from all around that area, all around uh, 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 this area on the world, on the map, from different genetic backgrounds. The most freedom loving people, the most fearless people, the most adventurous people, the most smart people, the most, the people that were eager to actually go into a fight and come out on top of it. Those were the people that start to form these Ukrainians, these Cossacks. So it's no wonder that, I mean, I know that Sean Penn, maybe know Sean Penn, the actor, he was at the time when this all started. He saw Zelensky, and he said he could see this fire in his eye where when this happened, he was not the guy that was like, oh no, what's gonna happen, my life, blah. No, you could see in his eyes that was a man that was ready to fight, that was really like, okay, now this has happened, okay, we're gonna fight, we're gonna, we're not gonna lose, we're gonna fight till the end to win this. And we have seen this all in how courageous they have been, how successful they've been. Not only, and you can see this ability to fight, this intelligence to be strategically smart, this this like almost like not almost like this heroic uh, ability to fight, to ability to face danger. Uh, and we've all been very impressed with Ukrainians. And if you look at their heritage, and it's kind of sad because when the Soviet Union rose in like 1917, many of the Cossacks were aligned with the Tsar at that point. Not all, because like I said, they all had their own minds. They were all able to make up their minds and make alliances, and some were closer to the Tsar at that point. Some were more against it. So when the Soviet Union, when the communists came, some of them chose to fight for the Tsarin or whatever, and some didn't. Some actually maybe went against it because they were more in front of the ideas that they heard that they might think they were okay. So, I mean, it sounds nice on paper, you're right. It's just the execution is always shitty, but the thing is that the communists were heavily fighting the Cossacks. So what happened once they that was settled, the Soviet Party was really, they saw the Cossacks as their biggest enemy because of their like free will, their free mind, their ability to make up their own minds, their ability to actually, they were, I mean, they said that I mean, they had an alliance with the Tsarin. They didn't have an alliance with the Soviets. So they started killing the Cossacks. Actually, really, they wanted to like weed them out, like genocide. They started killing them. Stalin took like all the food from the country in 1932 to basically literally starve them to death, and he did that. And they were dropping, like every day, people were dropping dead from hunger. And I think about between 6 and 8 million Ukrainians died from hunger in 1932 because of Stalin, and he did that so he wanted to put like more Russian people in Ukraine to make it more Russian. And this is kind of like what has been and this, you can see the same attitude from Putin, where he doesn't really care how many Ukrainians die. The more Ukrainians die, the better, because then there's less opposition. And once he conquers this, that means, at least that's what he's thinking, of course, less opposition against him, and that's what his only thing that he cares about ever. No opposition. Actually, this man is so scared of opposition that he is actually destroying he has destroyed his own future, in my opinion. I don't know how he can come back to this, on top of this, at least in an international way, and probably also in a national way, because he needed a victory to make sure that he would stay in power, and like he's fighting, like I said, like Napoleon said, give me 10,000 Cossacks or Ukrainians, and I will rule the world. So if Napoleon said that like so many times about these people, and I mean, I think there are 44 million Ukrainians there. No, they're not all fighters, of course. I think there was, I remember, I think, yeah, the war started with about 20,000 Ukrainians in the army, against like 100,000 like conscripts and stuff, or more, I don't know. So they were outnumbered 1-5, and already like in the north above Kiev, they had to pull back. They gave up. They had to give up. They said, well, we have accomplished our goals. Well, I don't know what kind of goals that would have been then. They said that they wanted to, that they anyway, that they accomplished something. But basically it was a retreat. Basically it was basically giving up. It is basically they gave up on like the attack on Kiev and conquering the whole country, getting rid of the government, and putting their own like puppet government in there, or straight out just putting, saying, well, now it's part of Russia. So I mean, and now, I mean, we're still not out of the war, but basically, I mean, it's going to be different area of fighting. It's a different area, and I know that the Donbass is really entrenched. Mariupol is incredibly under siege. I hope these guys will hold on a bit more longer. But like I said, like if they're gonna put like, I don't know what they're gonna do. They really need to win there. And also they've threatened Kiev to do attacks on Kiev. So I'm also worried, like maybe they might just use chemicals there, which would be like really, really bad idea, like internationally, because I think then everybody would go nuts. Um, but yeah, I don't know. The thing is that this man doesn't really care about anything or anyone. He doesn't care about loss of life. Like he doesn't even care about his own Russian soldiers dying. He doesn't give a hoots about that. Um, so I mean, because he makes the decision to send in like untrained Russian boys with tanks to like they think that they're just gonna conquer some country that is basically has the best fighters in the world in it. But um, I'm very impressed with the Ukrainians, and I can still that you can see that it's still in their DNA. However, they try to root it out of them, the Soviets. They still have the spirit of and fearlessness and being smart and I mean if you look at the Cossacks have they've been all over the place. They even went into they've been into Moscow, they've been into Poland, they've been into Turkey, they've been everywhere. They were like just attacking people because why not? We can loot their cities. So these people uh, were very um very uh, they were not too afraid to go into a fight with 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 anybody that it was it is part of their DNA to fight, you know. And the only thing is, as time went by, their area, Ukraine, became richer and richer, and they got forts, and they become bigger forts and bigger areas, and you could see that the rich and the poor Cossacks they become a bigger area where the rich Cossacks would have lots of parts of land and had a lot of they had alliances, and when they got into trouble with Poland that they started an alliance with Russia, and so and they would fight for Russia, fight their fights for them, um, and yeah, of course, these were pretty close ties to like the to them, um, and I think Putin is kind of like I think Putin all the he has so many beliefs that like these Ukrainians would like open, what let's say like the Russian army, yes, here you have pies and flowers and we're so happy that you're here to liberate us. Yeah, he might actually believed it himself, or he was told that was gonna happen, and that's why he just sent in like if I'm just gonna send like all my troops or like a big army, they'll be so scared they will give up. But what happened like in 2014, I believe. Uh, they've learned from that. They knew that they maybe when that time they weren't really expecting things to happen as much as they did. And yes, maybe at that time, it's like like the when Germany attacked the Dutch. I heard actually later on that there have been some fierce fights from the Dutch people, but I also heard that some people were like, okay, here's the Germans, what can we do? So um, if you're prepared for a battle, and they were aware of for like 8 years, they prepared for this fight. 8 years of training of the army, 8 years of strategic, whatever they have been doing the 8 years, they've been preparing for 8 years for that, and knowing like their background now, knowing that what kind of fighters they are, and what kind of ability they have and their spirit and their background, these are not people to mess with. And I think I'm so happy that we are able to support them. Like at some time they had an alliance. They also had an alliance with the Tsar. They had alliance uh, um, with them, and yeah, and you can see that they might not be as big and powerful right now as uh, like some of the other bigger powerful countries in the world, but they certainly they make up with their spirit, and they have only had 30 years to. This is only 30 years after Soviet Union. Um, I mean, communism. It just destroys economies. It 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 uh, the people that are in power, they just leech whatever they can from the country. They don't give anything back in intelligent, smart moves to make the country better. They don't really care. All they care probably is their parties with caviar and whatever they're doing and spending their money in big yachts. They don't really care about all they think about all day is how they can leech more money from these countries like Russia and this pre-Soviet, I don't know, post-Soviet countries. So like people you can get jealous of and people are they get upset with people like Bill Gates and whatever because they're so rich. But and I mean it's funny because they're upset with Bill Gates and uh, they love Elon Musk and stuff, so it's weird like that. I mean, I guess it's more like personality than actually them being rich, but uh yeah, it's easy to think if somebody's really rich, they might have done something bad to do it. But we all know that Bill Gates, Elon Musk, um, these are people that just make really good products, which we really love, which we really enjoy, and they give and they produce stuff, and they pay wages, they pay taxes, and you know but what they really do, their R&D, their research and development, all the money that's been put into that, all the money is, yeah, that's it's a healthy economy. We in the West, our economy is so much bigger than like those of that of Russia. There you can see it, their airplanes are falling out of the sky. There was a MiG near Finland that was just like that. It was supposed to be there just to like show off, like, oh, do you want to join NATO? Like, we got MiGs here. But it just fell out of the sky because the engine stopped working. And a lot of so um, when you allow when the president, the biggest guy in the country, is leeching the country for money, and he's working together with like the biggest leechers in the country to even get more money. What do you think is going to happen to the country? Do you think it's going to have an effective army? You know, I think that he relied purely on size difference between Ukraine's army and that of Russia, and he thought, and he believed his own BS, sorry to say that, but he believed their lies. That's why I think he there were 150 spies that he was unhappy with, and that are now detained or whatever. So he's but I'm still worried about the. There's a thing. There's a Chinese strategy, and it's one of many, but it says, one of those says that you should never corner your opponent. If you corner your opponent, and it's a bit like a cat, like, oh man, this was look, a cat scratch. I scratched myself today, I don't know. But if you would like corner a cat somewhere, and I had a lot of cats, but I have a lot of experience with cats, so I know a lot about cat scratches. I don't know if that ever happened where I cornered a cat and then it jumped at me. I don't know. I think I am too good with cats to let it happen to me. But they say that if you corner a cat, it will do crazy stuff, and that means like it's in a corner. It cannot go left, right, up, down. It will like start to go like, yeah, scratching you, jumping up at you, and making lots of scary noises and stuff. And I've catched a lot of cats in my days when they were like in areas that they're not supposed to be, and I always did it very carefully and gently and gained their trust and stuff because I didn't want them to start scratching me. But um, yeah, and that's the thing. And that's also that's not what the strategy is based on because this is Chinese, but it's really like from like if you have, even if it's a small army and your army is bigger, if you make that army how small it is, and I guess this is what they did to the Ukrainians. They didn't give them any, like if the Ukrainians would give up now or would have given up in the beginning or whatever, they know that, I mean, Stalin killed 8 million Ukrainians. He starved them to death. Like, I guess they probably still know that. And so I don't think that Ukrainians want to go back to being under the control of Russia or Putin, because it's never gonna be. It's like it cannot. Well, first of all, it's total. Like I said, like look at Russia. These people are all poor. You know, they're all poor. They have always been poor, and because the whole idea is that, oh well, you shouldn't be, don't try to be rich and don't try to be this and blah blah blah. But where is all the money going? Look at those big ships. They're everywhere. They're like 500 million, 700 million dollar luxury yachts everywhere. How many people could have had a bit of a better life if that money would have gone to the same or to the right thing? Also, when you take that much money out of the economy, how is it's going to sustain itself? If that money would have gone to people, if they would have, then they would have. It's a whole cycle of things. Once you start leeching things out of, once you start stealing people's money like that and undermining society, yes, it destroys the whole society. So even that, it is really like the Ukrainians know that if they stay the way they've been like these last 30 years, I mean, they're great people, they're smart, they are uh, they're very modern, they're Western people, you know, they can go so far. They can go so big. They have very rich soil for farming. They have natural gas, natural oil. They can be like as big, if not bigger than Germany. I mean, they have so much potential. They have huge potential to be a major economic and Western European country, healthy, happy people, you know, they can have a great future. That's all is going to disappear if Putin would win from them. Now already he's given up on Kiev, so it's now more like what is going to happen now. Are we talking about like is he gonna if he's gonna take like a quarter or 50% or 25%? He's probably aiming for to getting like a part of a part of the country, you know. I wish I would have shaved. Yeah, anyway. But, so yeah, what's the final outcome? I'm still worried that yeah, that's the thing. Like if you don't give somebody, if you corner your enemy in a situation where they cannot go anywhere, then they panic and they can do stuff that they normally should not do, and know they know better not to do, or they just do anything to get out of the situation. And you can see already that I don't know if I mean Putin is already going pretty far in everything he does, and that's part of his um, ruthlessness, you know, and his strategy to really, you know, threatening with like nuclear things. And I mean, we're still really not we're not, we're doing very little, uh, we're doing as little as possible within our capacity to help the Ukrainians, not to offend Putin into like starting throwing nukes around. And that's kind of sad to say that, but I don't think even Ukraine would be happy with nukes being thrown around because they start throwing them at them. So um, he might as well like do a yeah. So it's a very dangerous situation where we are like we're trying to help them. Well, help as much as possible as we think that is safe to do so without like really like going to the next level with Putin and like giving them acceptable help that that Putin will have to accept without um, going into crazy tactics straight away. And until now, it's been working just because of the resilience and incredible fighting spirit and ability of the Ukrainians. That has been working, and that's like, and that's a miracle on its own. That's really incredible, but it's really sad that their country is being, that their people are suffering so much, and they having to take this. So yeah, I really hope that we're gonna take it up a few notches with help and support for them, especially with this last part of the war. I mean, I don't know what the future would be if they wouldn't get much more help or they wouldn't get more success in this war. But yeah, until there's some kind of real retreat from Russia, this thing could go on and on and on. And I don't think that anybody wants that, especially as long as people keep getting hurt over this. And the threats, the third world threat, the nuclear threat, and but it wouldn't be good if Ukrainians would have to concede right now large parts of their country just to get peace, because like we see in the Donbass, he used the Donbass to attack Ukrainian. He's been for 8 years. The Donbass has been used to attack Ukraine, and then now it's been used as excuse. Oh, there's been so many fighting in the Donbass, this poor little area that we want to protect by putting lots of soldiers and weapons and stuff in there and fighting Ukrainians. I mean, they can keep do that. They can do it for another 8 years in like whatever area they have now, right? So it's really important that the Ukrainians take back as much of that territory that they had before the war. Actually, they need to take back everything, and I would think take back everything they had before 2014. Just take Donbass, take Crimea. But I think why not? It's their because as long as they have, well, especially Donbass, as long as they have the Donbass area keeps fighting with them, they're actually never gonna be peace, unless that the old lines around their country are back in place. I mean, Crimea. I think Crimea is also like. Why wouldn't they try to get? The thing is that there's a water supply in Ukraine that supplies Crimea, the island, and they cut that off, and that really made that whole area, Crimea, kind of like useless. And it's like my country being without water for 8 years, So so why have Crimea if there's no water, right? So that's why they want this whole area. They want this southeastern area of Ukraine, so they can make use of Crimea, so they can make use of this whole area. And so unless actually maybe they might even try to take back Crimea. I don't know if they would like even care or bother, or well, of course they would bother. I mean, I'm sure they would care, but the thing is that would it be? I mean, it's not going to be easy, right? So, I mean, it would give them, like, they would either had to retake Crimea, the Russians, once it's been taken by Ukraine back again, which could, like, let's say it would be peace after, like, if they would take Donbass and Crimea, and then and because of all the losses, Russia would have to would do a peace agreement, because basically they've been like rooted out of those areas. And I mean, at that point Ukraine could even go into Russia, I mean, it wouldn't be the first Cossack to go into Moscow. I think then they would be forced to peace. But then again, going into Russia territory, they still have nukes, right? So that could give them an excuse to actually launch those nukes. But yeah, there could be a moment where if Crimea and Donbass are kind of like cleaned out of Russians. But but this is the big thing. Once they start fighting over Donbass, if that would ever happen, if I don't know if they, it seems that if they can take back all the areas that the Russians took, like in the last couple of weeks, if they could took that in the last month, like if they took that back, and they were left a bit like with the option to, well, they will have to take Mariupol, of course, either take it back, or they would have to they be able to protect it now from permanently from Russians. If they would be that victorious at some point, yeah, what to do with Donbass and Crimea? That's a difficult question, but oh yeah, that's what I want to say. Like, to go into Donbass, I mean, that they have been fighting there for 8 years, and now, and of course, it's been okay for Russia to completely destroy Ukrainian cities and execute them, but once the Ukrainians start hitting Donbass uh, with attacks, they're gonna cry like little babies, like, oh, they're attacking Russians, Russian people dying, it's unfair. And and of course every death is unfair and awful, but uh, the thing is that that's what's the, anyway, do I have to explain it? But so they're gonna cry like, oh, now this is unfair and blah blah blah, and they might even probably again gonna threaten maybe nuclear war or whatever. But the Donbass is Ukrainian. It is Ukrainian area, and just because they say that it's not, just because they claim that it's not, just because they put lots of Russians in there and soldiers and fighters and whatever, and they made it into a war zone, that doesn't make it less of Ukraine, and to root those Russians out of there that have been there for 8 years, yes, there's going to be some heavy fighting, and it's going to look bad probably for Ukrainians at the end of the war, once they start taking back that area, and they have to now attack cities, Ukrainian cities, their own cities, to take them back with their own people in it. And I hope that Mariupol is still. I hope Mariupol won't fall. As far as I know, Mariupol, uh, uh, because like yeah, it's better to keep a city than trying to have taken it back. Although they have taken back, like in the northern area, and that because it was partially a retreat, maybe partially a routing of from the Ukrainian forces of the Russian forces, but that's, I don't know when or what, if that's gonna happen in like Donbass, but so yeah. But as long as we keep supplying and supporting these heroes in Ukraine and these courageous fighters, and I mean, their spirit is the spirit that they have, the spirit of the Western world in them. They had it centuries before we had it. Their feminism, their liberalism, their way of thinking is um, it's I understand why they really like being not not communistic, not Soviet Union, not Russian, not Putin, and they are fully, their spirit is that of the European, even maybe even more than the Europeans. So they're very Western spirit, very European spirit, and I think they have a great future ahead of them. That's being threatened right now. I hope that they will succeed and they will get all the tools for it, and nobody's gonna go, yeah, do some, it's worrying. It's worrying. But um, I think that this incredible fighting power of the Ukrainians, it's gonna be with with the supplies that we can give them if we want to, and if we do so, they can withstand a lot and fight, and so they should be able to regain their territories, because they already, like, I mean, even the Russian army right now with the new extra stuff coming in and the new like conscripts and new people, nothing's gonna change that much probably, basically from their tactics and stuff. Um, they're not gonna do that in like they're already going. It's like they did an attack and now they're doing another attack. There's the, but, I mean, yeah, there's a new commander. They have a new general, and he's more ruthless, and that's really scary. And there's gonna be war crimes gonna be intensified. The war crimes gonna be, it's gonna be more awful than we've seen so far. It's gonna be a really, we have to really look out for what's going on there and what they're doing. And yeah, it's gonna be tough, really tough for the Ukrainians, and really, really tough for them. So yeah, I just hope, uh, I wish them the best, and I hope that, I mean, God will be on them, throughout of this, and they will get those losses, that there will be lessened, and that it won't be too bad what's gonna happen to them. Anyway, I think I've said enough for today, and I wish you a beautiful day, and yeah, bye bye, lovely people.